And basically, my opening statement alludes to the fact that 13 incoming transfers, 27 lost. So if you're dealing with some kind of currency that's equal, then that's not a good thing. However, just look at the losses for the most part. Not that there hasn't been some value lost, but certainly recently, just roster management has been the core of the losses. While on the flip side, the guys that have hit campus, of course, the highlight last week was Damian Martinez, the first team all Pac-12 performer out of Oregon State, but two more very nice pieces coming in with, of course, you've got Jalen Alderman, who was an all-conference linebacking performer with Louisville, and then Sam Brown, who had 62 catches at Houston.
And then also the third one, I forgot to mention his name in our show prep, Diani Hill from Marshall, a cornerback. So he played on the defense coordinated by Lance Guidry and was coached by Chavez. No, it's not Chavez Grant. Excuse me. That was the Miami Hurricanes former player. And now my brain is not working, but the new cornerbacks coach who was at Marshall. First team all SEC, went to LSU, played in the league for a minute.
Chevis Jackson.
Chevis Jackson. There we go. Sorry. So coached by Chevis Jackson even last year, 2 years ago, on the defense coordinated by Lance Guidry. So, yeah, there's a picture of all four of those guys being Martinez, Alderman, Hill, and Brown wearing their jerseys on their visits together. And that's the Wendy's combo, 4 for 4, man. So all four of those guys, have said that they're coming to the U this year. And again, just roster optimization. Like you're making the roster better. And that's what you need to do. There is a manner of people management that happens with it as well. It is mid-cycle recruiting over like some guys who are there. And then that's going to, disenfranchise other people and have them leave. So, guys like Marcelius Pulliam, one of the most recent departures in the portal, linebacker, second-year player out of Georgia. He's a guy who I thought could have been special teams, maybe rotation, fighting for rotation snaps this year, and then maybe like competing for a larger role next year. In the same way as like Caleb Spencer, not necessarily being featured in 24, but with a path to that in 25, if he puts in the work and is able to rise to the top. Unfortunately, those players, both and others, have chosen to go elsewhere. Guys like a Jonathan Dennis from South Dade Senior High School who went to Oregon, signed like with Mario, and then committed to Mario. Mario came here. He stayed going to Oregon and then transferred back here. And then, he's going somewhere else. There was another kid who wasn't going to play snaps, so I'm not really going to mention him. Chris Washington, he wasn't really necessarily going to play snaps, but an offensive lineman who was like a 3-year developmental player 3 years ago. And, you just have recruited way over him. So he's leaving, and things like that. And then you have some guys who have departed, who have found, soft landing spots. Jared Harrison Hunt continuing the American Airlines Express flight from MIA to DFW and going to, that's from Miami to Dallas. He's going to SMU to play for Rhett Lashley with so many other former Hurricanes. And then Jakari Brown going up I-95, or the turnpike to I-4. And he's going to Orlando to play for UCF. And I think that is potentially a very nice fit for him moving forward. So, I don't necessarily know that he's going to be everybody's All-American or like an NFL prospect, but I think that like UCF does things that can really highlight his skill set. And I'm going to bring back a blast from the past in the recruiting world who should have played another position but wanted to play quarterback at the exclusion of anything else. But I said at the time, years ago, that Torrance Gibson's highlight film when he was in American Heritage was bubble screens and bombs. But you still can score points with that. It was bubble screens and bombs in the passing game, and then they ran like inverted veer or, it was more inverted veer than the QB power because he really did have that give option to stretch the defense on those. But then, he would run and he was just big and athletic. And I think that you can do similar things with Jakari Brown from a schematic standpoint that they've been doing at UCF. So, good for him, good for them. But yeah, just really focusing on Miami. And, we're going to lose some guys that, maybe we did want. Jared Harrison Hunt was going to be a rotational or top of the rotation kind of defensive tackle, maybe not like at the top, but like in the top 3 at defensive tackle. That could have mattered, and things like that. But yeah, we're still seeing roster optimization and really finding ways to go out and get the players that we need to really compete for, 10 plus regular season wins and championships, whether that's conference or more in this year. Like, you have to go all in, and by getting all 4 of these recent commitments in the portal, that's a big step forward. I was on here last week saying that the Canes Connection Collective needed to put their money where their mouth was, and they have. So kudos to them, kudos to the staff for the way that they're recruiting in general, and continuing to optimize this roster moving towards 2024, because yeah, this is a all-in, chips to the center kind of season.
I don't pretend to know Jalen Alderman's game, what style of player he is. But if you look at the production, you're looking at one of the best defenses in the ACC last year. Of course, they advanced to the ACC championship game. They only lost 1 game in conference. He had 62 tackles. He had 7 tackles behind the line of scrimmage with an interception. So he was I don't know, I didn't go through the first, second, and third teams of the ACC, but I would guess that he was at least an honorable mention, all ACC performer with those kind of numbers. So within the linebacking core, and I know that it's been somewhat of a disappointment, Cam, in regards to the level of play. And again, it would be interesting, since the 2 teams played, to just kind of ISO him and throw on last year's Louisville game that came down to a 4th down stop inside the 5-yard line to see what kind of game he had. But he's a pretty nice player.
Yeah, and I think that he's going to compete with Wesley Basaint for the starting spot opposite of Kiko Mamanoa, and add top line depth. That this is a guy who can step in and play, like KJ Cloyd, who also came from Louisville to Miami last year, and when we went to a 3 linebacker alignment, was the 3rd linebacker in that group. Played major snaps for this team, had a big impact in several games. Jalen Alderman has the potential to do that as well. Diani Hill, also a cornerback. We're talking about really needing somebody there. And I think that he can be someone at the top of that rotation. He is not like an All-American who's coming over, but like even with Diani Hill as an older player, I feel more comfortable with where the cornerback room is now than a week ago. You lose Savion Riley, the transfer from Vanderbilt after spring, seeing how things were shaking. It was just like, hey, maybe I'm going to go seek shelter elsewhere. But yeah, 55 tackles, a tackle for loss and interception, 10 PBUs last year and a forced fumble. That's not bad. Not bad at all. And again, when you already know the way that the coach works, because your position coach, Chavis Jackson, was your coach last year at Marshall when he put those numbers up. And then, you were there 2 years ago when Lance Guidry was the coordinator. Yeah, like that familiarity also helps things, where it's just like, hey, I know, because I've been in this room with both coaches, like I can be the translator a little bit more. And like, I know that, at least Guidry's been here for a year, but having the player level leadership to say, hey, this is the drill, these are the reads, these are the things that we're trying to do. It can really help from the ground level. And again, just that's like what KJ Osborne did for the wide receiver group when he was here, just showing them how to be more professional. And Diani Hill, I think, can take that internal leadership role of just being the decoder ring for what's going on defense a little bit. And that knowledge and clarity and communication will help hopefully everybody get on the same page and then have good level of performance. But yeah, I'm really happy with the state of recruiting from the portal. You get Damian Martinez to go along with Cam Ward. You get Sam Brown. Like I said, we needed another guy who could be towards the top of the wide receiver rotation. And you bring that guy in, and he's 6'2", 200 something pounds, running 4.5 or under. 815 yards and 3 touchdowns like you see last year. Bounced around a little bit, obviously, from West Virginia to Houston. But, this is a guy who, like I said last week, was seen, in pictures and videos, having a throwing session with Cam Ward in Texas, where they're both from. And that paid off. And, this is, again, not necessarily an All-American or anything, but I think that he slots in towards the top of the position group at wide receiver. And getting the best available guy at multiple positions is exactly where Miami should be. And moving forward towards the season. I love it.
What you know when you see this kind of production is that the floor is rather high. It's not okay. His recruiting ranking is this, and we know he runs the this in the 40 and all of this other business, and the talent looks good and he looks great in shorts. But no, he's caught 113 passes in major college football. So that the floor is high, that at least he can produce on the field to some degree. He's a productive player.
Absolutely. And we need productive players, and we need the kind of size for him that he embodies and brings to the roster, being one of the target wide receivers, for that X position. And whether that is him or Isaiah Horton now has actual direct competition for that X receiver role. And hopefully iron sharpens iron. We're like, okay, like he's already stepped his grind up. He reshaped his body, changed his number from 14 to 2, looks like a different guy. And then he's saying, okay, Sam Brown, come on in. And like, hey, look, you're going to play 7-8 receivers. You can get your snaps, but if you want the starter snaps and you want the big time snaps, you're going to have to go through me. I love it. And if Isaiah Horton is able to entrench himself and say, nah, dog, this ain't happening. We can play at the same time. You can go over there, but like, this is my spot. I love it. If he tries that and Sam Brown comes in and says, yo, you're standing there like Frederick Weiss in the Olympics, and I'm Vince Carter, and I'm going to jump over you and dunk on you because you tried to play defense. You tried to have that spot. I found a way to make it work anyway. And then Sam Brown is the guy who takes over that spot or wherever else. Made the best player on the field who will help Miami move forward be the one. And hopefully we continue to develop everybody together. Kevin Beer, the wide receivers coach, does a great job at that and has at multiple locations. And so, very excited to see that. But, I love having more talent in the room, and then y'all battle it out to see which one of the talents that we have will rise to the top and be there in certain situations and go make those plays. Absolutely.
Falconer TRX with his usual opening line, opening super sticker. We appreciate you, Falconer TRX. Falconer TRX's fame has grown to the point where on our previous show, the Florida State show, there was a Florida State fan who I'd never seen before. God bless him for giving. However, he said, I'm going to match Falconer TRX. And he had words to say. They weren't derogatory. They were in some fashion honorable in his admiration of Falconer TRX. And when you've got rival fan bases of Falconer TRX where they have fans who are wanting to be like you, there you go. You have set the standard, my friend. So great job out of Falconer TRX.
Very nice.
Comes back with this one. Miami to the Big 12 sooner than experts think.
I mean, is that a play on the University of Oklahoma with Sooner there? But
in cap with a lead in tackle.
Right. Yeah. True. Well, and it is also the beginning of that sentence. So great punctuation.
You're right.
From you, Falconer. I just don't.
You don't want that.
I don't want. I mean, first of all, I don't want it. And I just don't see if we're leaving the ACC, which I desperately desire to be the truth. It would take such a godfather offer from the Big 12 to like even consider them. You know, it would have to be, you know, how Texas and Oklahoma both got double shares of the revenue. We're going to give you all of that and a little extra, you know, like something like just dumb, like a third of the conference revenue, regardless of anything else across all sport. And like, like just, it would have to be, yeah, just such a like ridiculous offer. Because like, you know, the SEC is the ESPN league and the Big Ten is the Fox league, and that money being in like put into the sport is driving everything. And like, yeah, it would just take such a godfather offer from someone else to have me consider that. And if it's not that, then that move would be absolutely moronic by whoever did that. And I don't personally think that Dan Radakovich or Julio Frank, the athletic director and university president, I do not believe them to be morons. So I don't believe that they would make this move absent it being such just an overwhelming generational number. But I don't even see the Big 12 offering Miami that kind of a number. I get why they did Texas and Oklahoma because of, you know, the history and the development of that league from when it was the Big 8 and, you know, but like, I don't think so. Or maybe better said, I damn sure hope not. But, you know, we'll see.
I am trying to shake my mentality that goes to 1995 and just the brand of the Big 12, the look of the Big 12. I think about those Kansas schools, those Oklahoma schools, those Texas schools. Shoot, half the conference is sitting in Texas. Mm-hmm. And I understand they've now spread throughout the nation. They've got a school that's what, 2.5 hours away from Coral Gables in UCF, maybe further than that, but
a little bit, yeah.
Whatever it is. So I get that it's now a national conference. Shoot, they're all national conferences to some extent. But man, when I think about Miami past, when I think about Miami present, when it involves the relevance and the brand of the program, regardless of what has not been accomplished on the field in the last 20 years, we've talked about the connections to and why it makes sense to the Big Ten, both athletically and academically. And for the Big Ten, not just that this is a coup for Miami to get to the Big Ten, why it would be advantageous for the Big Ten to go after Miami. And then geographically, we don't have to explain why Miami would fit in the SEC and Florida's up the road. And they have history with those schools more so than any other conference outside the ACC. The Big 12, it just... Then to me, we would have reached that point where it truly doesn't matter that the fit.
I mean, it really kind of doesn't already, you know, like I mean, look, the LA schools are in the Big Ten now.
I know, but there's still kind of a cachet there.
Yeah, I mean, but like, you know, geographically and everything. I mean, but like, you got the LA schools sense. And then Washington and Oregon, and like, it's just like, yeah, it's whatever. Like, this is so far down the road of like the NCAA dynasty where it's just like, yeah, we're going to go create a conference and just select whoever. Like, that's, you know, kind of where we are, I think.
Yeah. At least with the LA schools, there's a Rose Bowl connection. There's long history of USC, Michigan, USC, okay. Ohio State, UCLA in the Rose Bowl. And the Rose Bowl, more so than the other bowl games, there's a long history of those two conferences meeting at the Rose Bowl and all that. And then just from a academic standpoint, the reputations of the schools and all that. And the Big Ten's been very aligned with the Pac-12 and in a lot of academic pursuits. And there just seems to be more of a connection. Whereas, again, when I think Big 12, I think Texas, I think Oklahoma, I think Dust Bowl. That's what I think. It's just a different vibe, lifestyle, everything from Miami.